Hi, I'm Assistant Professor Aditi Mathur, International Schools of Business Management, Suresh Gyan Vihar University, Jaipur. And in today's video lecture, we'll be covering equity valuation. So let us just first understand what do we mean by equity shares. So equity shares are also known as your ordinary shares or the common shares, which represents the owner's capital in a company. The owners of these shares are real owners of the company. They have a control over the working of an organization. They are paid dividend, but they are paid it after the payment of dividend to the preference shareholders. The rate of dividend depends on the profile of the company. That means the rate for the preference shareholders to receive dividend is constant, same, specific, well known to everyone. Whereas we talk about the payment of dividend to the equity shareholders, the amount or the rate is not fixed because it depends on the profile of the organization, the earning in that particular year, in the ratios they have decided. That means the payment ratios of the dividend or the retained ratio which they want to maintain in that particular year. There are many factors which depend on how and how much to decide for a particular dividend, and you will learn this dividend policies and dividend theories in few of my video lecture later on. But right now, if we focus upon the valuation of equity shares, so the one thing is that dividend payments are not same, or they are not constant in terms of the amount. They keep on varying, they keep on changing as per the profile and earning of the organization. But if we talk about the dividends which we have to pay for the preference shareholders, that is same constant. And if you are paying to the preference shares, the amount is fixed. You will not be changing that amount. You cannot pay less than that, and you will not like to pay more than that particular fixed amount. The equity shares may be paid higher rate of dividend, or they may not get anything. It depends on the situation or the decision taken by the board of directors, right? They decide that what rate of dividend has to be paid, whether they will be paying it or not, and if they will be paying, at what rate they will be paying, right? So, before we move ahead, let us just discuss the methods of valuation of equity. So there are basically three main methods. The first one is discounted cash flow technique. The second one is dividend valuation method or dividend discount model, in which you have five more models. The first model is your single period valuation, then you have multiple period valuation, then you have zero growth model, the constant growth model, which is also known as your Gordon model, then your two-stage growth model, and the last method, the third final method, is price earning ratio. So in this video lecture, we'll be completing all these models. We will be doing one or two questions. I request you all to solve the questions by yourself through the books or the material available on the websites. So let us just start understanding our model number one, or the method one, through which we calculate the value of equity shares. And this model is your discounted cash flow technique. This methods estimate value of assets based on its estimated future cash flows, which are discounted to the present. That means that this is the concept related to your time value of money. So what you're going to do, you're going to take into the consideration all the future expected cash flows, and you're going to bring that to the present value, and then you will decide and calculate what is the present worth of that equity, right? This concept of discounting future monies into the this common present value is because of the time value of concept. So let's take an example. As an asset that matures and pays 100 in 1 year is less than 100 today. right? So the size of discount depend on the opportunity cost of capital, and it is expressed as the percentage. So whatever we are going to calculate is going to be based on the time value of money, and we are going to take the help of cost of equity to calculate our present value or the value of the equity. So, for the valuation using the discounted cash flow method, the following estimation should be done. The first estimation is the estimation of future cash flow from the investments. So, you have to first estimate how much money you will be earning in future from this investment which you are going to do today. The second estimation is estimates a reasonable discount rate after considering the risk of those cash flows. So you have to come up to that discount rate, to that rate which you will be considering after evaluating all the risk associated with your security. The one makes a calculation to compute the present value of cash flow. So this rate which you are calculating is that one which will help you out to compute the present value of the future cash flows. Generally, it is the cost of equity itself, that rate itself, which you take to calculate the present value. So now let us just see the formula. The formula for the calculation of the value of equity is here. That is summation of the cash flows of equity divided by 1 plus r to the power of n. Right? So what is your CF? That is your expected cash flows to equity in the period 10th. That means the number of period. And R is your cost of equity. You will get this formula more clearly when we will solve this question. So let us just see the example of Mr. Alok. He is expected to receive earning per share of 100 annually for 2 years. So our total N is 2 years, and our future values after 1 year and future value after 2 year is 100. And we have to calculate the value of equity today if R, that means your cost of equity, is 12%. So let us just first draw the timeline which we have learned in our time value of money chapter. So we have to calculate the present value. We know FV1 and we know FV2. Right? So how to do it? We have to discount it. Remember, when we go from right side to left side in our time value or in our timeline, it is discounting. And to discount, we will write our future value divided by 1 plus r to the power of n, right? And with the help of these, we know r, we know future value, we know n. We can simply calculate the present value, that is 100 divided by 1 plus r, that is your 1.12 to the power of 1, plus 1 plus 100 divided by 1.12 to the power of 2, which will give you 169 rupees. That means if you invest today 169 rupees and you have a cost of equity of 12%, you'll be receiving 100 rupees in future, that is in the first year and at the end of the second year. So we know how to calculate now the present value with the help of discounted cash flow technique. It is that simple one which we have already studied in our time value of money chapter. So now let us just understand and study the dividend valuation models, under which we have 5 more models to study. So the first of all, we should know that the dividend valuation model, which is also known as dividend discount model or the DDM, is one of the very commonly and widely used valuation technique. The value of equity shares is equal to the present value of dividend expected from the ownership plus present value of the sales price expected when the equity share will be sold. So your dividend valuation model says that if you are buying a security today and you want to calculate the value right now, that is the present value, for that you will be needing the future values of the payments which you will be receiving and the future value or the sales value of that year in which you might be selling your equity. And when you will add them all at the present value, that means you will bring these all to the present value, present time, that amount will give you the dividend valuation model's equity amount. Right? So the assumptions of these model, which are very important, these four assumptions. The first assumption is that the future value of dividend is known by the investors, which is a big assumption, because we have already discussed in our first slide itself that the dividends are not decided pre-hand, they are not declared 1 year ago or 2 years ago. They are those value which depends on the size, nature, earning and profile of the organization, right? So it might vary, and we are assuming in this method that we as an investor pre-hand know that how much amount of dividend you are going to earn in your year 1, year 2, year 3, which is not possible. If we talk about the preference shares, then yes, you might be knowing. But remember, we are doing the valuation of equity shares. So this is the assumption which we are taking, that we will always be knowing the future values of dividend which will be receiving, right? Which is a big assumption. The second assumption, if we talk about, is that the dividends are expected to be distributed at the end of every year until infinite. That means there is no case of interim dividend, there is no bonus dividend. It is going to be a regular dividend which will always be paid at the end of the year. No special dividend, no interim dividend, and they will never be paid in the beginning of the year or in the middle of the year. They will always be paid at the end of the year. The third assumption is that the dividends are the only way to investors to get money back from the company. This implies that the any shares payback would be ignored. That means there is no concept called payback method. There's no concept called getting the shares back by the company and giving the money to the equity share, because your debentures get redeemed, right? Your preference shares can also get redeemed, but your equity shares, they never redeem, they are only buyback. So there is no concept of buyback. We are ignoring this concept of buyback while we are using the method of dividend valuation method. The fourth assumption is that the implications of the second assumption, that means that there will be a distribution, at the end of the every year, the investor expects to hold the share for infinite period of time, and he will not sell it at any moment, because you know that you will get certain amount of money, and that certain amount of money is also fixed after every year, and we are assuming that the investors will never sell that share. That means you are actually ignoring entire stock market, because stock market is a place where you buy and sell and exchange your stocks, that means your shares. So you are saying that the investors, if they have purchased it today, they will never sell it. They will never ever like to buy some another security by selling that particular security. That means you are also saying that there will be no revision of the portfolios of individual. If a certain person is having an investment entirely into one stock, he will continue that for the entire lifetime. So this is also one of the biggest assumptions which we are taking. So let's have a quick recap on all the four assumptions. The first assumption, you already know the future value of dividend. The second assumption, that they will be paid at the end of the year for the infinite time. The third assumption is that the companies will not have buyback, and the fourth assumption is that the shareholders will never sell their securities or the shares which they have purchased. It will be always there for the infinite. So now let us just discuss the first model under your DDM, that is your single period valuation model. That means we are assuming, or the investor is expected to hold the equity share for only 1 year. That means if I am buying it today in 2020, I'll be keeping that investment for 1 year, and exactly after 1 year, that means after the completion of my 1 year, that's 2021, I will sell that security. In such case, when you have a single year or a 1 year of holding, the formula to calculate the present value is D1 divided by 1 plus R plus P1 divided by 1 plus R. Before that, let me teach you what do we mean by D1, D0, P1, P0. So the first thing which we should learn over here right now is P0, P1. So P0 stands for the current price of equity shares. That means the value today at present is your P0. The price of equity today is your P0. P1 is the price of shares after 1 year. That means after the completion of 1 year, you denote your value of equity share as P1. So let's take an example. P3 means price of equity after 3 years. If it is P13, it is price of the equity after 13 years. Now let us just understand what do we mean by D or D0 and D1. So your D1 is the dividend expected after 1 year, and D0 means dividend if it is paid today. So always your zero signifies today. So if it is D0, that means dividend if it is paid today. It can be also written as D, and D1 means dividend accepted or expected after 1 year, or D2 then dividend after 2 year, D3 dividend expected in third year, dividend expected in fourth year, and so on, right? R being your rate of return which you are expecting, or the cost of equity. So now let us just see our formula. That means the present value of equity is equals to dividend. We will be, discounting it and bringing it to the present. That's why 1 plus R plus price 1 plus R. Why we are doing is this price, why we are calculating the present value of price, is because we have decided that we will be selling back the security after the completion of 1 year. And the DDM model also says that to calculate the present value, you have to take care of all the incomes which you will be incurring because of the investment made today. So all the income includes the all the dividends which you will be receiving, and the value which you will be receiving after the selling. So that is why we are adding dividend and the value which we'll be receiving after these sales. So why this N is not mentioned over here? Because our time period is 1. So if you write 1, if you don't write 1, it does not make any sense. That's why we have ignored this N. And that is how we have received our formula, which is P0 is equals to D1 divided by 1 plus R plus P1 divided by 1 plus R. Now let us just see the example. Prestige equity share is expected to provide a dividend of 2 rupees and fetch a price of 18 rupees. That means your expected dividend D1 is 2 rupees and your price expected after 1 year, that means P1, is 18 rupees. And the required rate is 12%. So now let us just calculate the P0, which is equals to 2 divided by 1 plus R, which is 1.12, plus 18 divided by 1.12, which will give you 17.86 paisa. So your present value of the equity, which will be giving you the value of 2 rupees as dividend after 1 year and 18 rupees if you will sell that equity after 1 year, is 17.86 paisa right now. So now let us just understand and discuss the second method to calculate your equity value under your DDM method, is your multiple period valuation method. So the only difference in the calculation of your multiple period valuation model and the the single period holding model, which we have studied right now, so the single period model, is that in single period we assume that the investment is only for the 1 year, but whereas in present value we believe that the investment will be with us for more than 1 year. So the only difference in the formula over here is that we are going to add up all the dividends for which we are going to earn the money, the number of years, and then after that, the year in which we will be selling, that price will also be added. Let me take an example and teach you this concept. Let's assume that we have bought a shares of X Limited, which will give us the dividend of 10 rupees every year, and we are expected to keep the investment for, let's say, 4 years. That means I am going to discount my dividend for 4 years, plus r to the power of 2 plus d 3 1 plus r to the power of 3 plus g 4 1 plus r to the power of 4 plus P4 divided by 1 plus r to the power of 4. Right? So I am going to take into the consideration all the dividends which I am earning plus the value of that share at the end of the time, and I will just discount them all together so that I can get my present value of equity. But we were not doing this in a single holding because we were assuming that our holding will be for only 1 year. Let's take an example to understand this situation with more better understanding, and that is that you have decided to buy 500 shares of IT company with the intention of selling it at the end of 5 years. So your end will be 5 years. You are going to keep your investments for 5 years with you. You estimated that the company will pay 3.5 per shares as dividend for the first 2 years and 4.5 for the next 3 years. That means that you have assumed and calculated that in your D1 and D2 you will get 3.5 per share, and D3, D4, D5 will be 4.5 per share. You further estimated that the end of the 5th year holding period, the shares can be sold for 85 rupees. So you know your P, or your selling price at the end of 5 year, is your 85 rupees. What would you be willing to pay today for these shares if your required rate of return is 12%? So they have given us the cost of equity or the required rate of return as 12%. So now let's just put all these figures into the formula, and our formula is this. So it is 3.5, 3.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. plus 85 because it is your P5. And then you will discount them up. Every value will be discounted because we need the present value. And when you will do the calculation with the help of the calculator, your equity price will be 62.76 per share. So if you have to calculate it for 500, you can simply multiply it by 500 and you will get the entire value of your equity holding. We have calculated per share, and then it's on you. You want to calculate it for 500 shares, you can easily calculate it by multiplying it with by 500. So we are not doing some new concept. We are just aligning our time value of money with the different concepts. And right now we are studying the valuation of equity shares. Now let us just understand the third important model in your DDM. It is your zero growth model. In the zero growth model, we assume that the dividends will be constant over the time. That means there will be no expected increase in the returns which an investor might receive. In the previous question, we were able to see the increase in expectation, a growth from 3.5 to 4.5. But when we do the zero growth model, we assume that there is no such growth. It will be the entirely same dividend which we are going to receive for entire life. It is 2 rupees, then it will be 2 rupees forever. If it is 5 rupees, it will be 5 rupees forever. So there is no growth associated with the concept of zero growth model. So that is why our formula is P0 is equals to D divided by 1 plus R plus D divided by 1 plus R plus D divided by 1 plus R to the power of infinity. Right? So the above formula can also be simply written as D divided by R. Let us just take an example to understand how to solve these questions. There are about 10 crore shares outstanding of a company, 8% preference capital. The par value is 100 and the dividend is paid every quarter. Assuming that the discount rate is 10%, compute the value of shares. So you have to calculate the value of shares, which are your 8% preference share capital, par value, that means your face value is equals to 100. Dividends are paid quarterly and the discount rate or the small r is 10%. So how to do that? It is with the help of the simple formula. You're going to first calculate the dividend which you will be earning. So your dividend will be calculated. So the dividend will be calculated with the help of this formula. Remember the chapter of compounding and discounting in which we have already learned how to adjust the compounding effects if the compounding is done annually or semi-annually. So we multiply the n and divide the r. Same thing which we have done so that we can calculate the dividend which we will be receiving for the equity shareholders, and it is 8.24 per annum, right? And now this amount will be used for the calculation of your P0. So now we know the D, which is your 8.24 divided by 1.1, because your R is your 10%. So it is 1.1, which is equals to 98.40. Right? So we have simply used our formula and calculated. Why we have used 1 plus R, you can see over here. So it is R is equals to 10%. So that is why it is 1 plus 0.1 And this is how we have arise to or land up to 1.1, right? So now let us just see the another model which is very important for us to understand, that is your Gordon model. This is very important for you to learn, because many a time MCQ questions come in which you are asked that which model is also famously known as the Gordon model. So you have to select the correct option will be the constant growth model. That means that we assume that there will be increase or there will be a growth in the dividend which we are going to earn in particular investment opportunity, but that growth will be constant. If it is 1%, it will be 1% forever. If it is 2%, it will be 2% forever. So when you have a constant growth rate, a constant growth associated, and then you calculate the value of your equity, we use the Gordon model. So the formula to calculate is that when you have the present dividend, then you will just add the growth and then R minus G. And when you are directly given the dividend which you will be earning after a certain number of years, you can directly write that minus 1 minus G. So let us just see the question. A company pay a dividend of 3.7 in previous year. That means previous year it is D0 is equals to 3.70. A dividend in the future are expected to grow at 8%. That means our G is 0.08. Find out the share price of today. If the R is equals to 12%. So our formula is very easy. D0 plus 1 plus G divided by R minus G. So our D0 is 3.70 into 1 plus 0.08 divided by 0.12 minus 0.08. And then when you will calculate, your present value of shares will be equal to 100, right? So if you know the formula and you know that which formula is to be used in that particular question, you can easily calculate the present value of equity share. Now, the another very important and the last part of your DDM model is that two-stage growth model. So the two-stage model assumes that the constant growth rate G1 existing will be there for only a certain time t, and after that the growth rate will change and it will be G2. So you have two growth rate. So the questions comes like that there is a security which is at present earning dividend. That means dividend today is 10 per share. It is expected to grow at the rate of 2% for next 3 years, and later on it will be 3% forever, right? So you are given two growth rates over here, and let's take an example that your cost of equity is 10%. Calculate the value of value of equity shares. So you will simply write the formula. So our P0, P0 is equals to sigma of D1 1 plus G1 to the power of n divided by 1 plus R to the power of n plus D n plus 1 plus R minus G 2 into 1 plus 1 plus R to the power of n. So now let's just study the last method or the technique to calculate the value of equity is with the price earning ratio. As the name suggests, it will be a ratio between the price of the security and the earning of the security. The price of the security is denoted as the market value of the security. That's why our formula is very easy. which is equals to market price of shares divided by earning, that means your EPS, and then simply calculate it with the multiplication of 100. You will get your PE ratio. The important thing to be taken into the consideration is this part, which says lower the PE ratio, the better it is for an investor among various alternatives. That the stocks will be lowest PE ratio may be selected. So in future, if the question comes where you have to select between the two securities, so you will be selecting that security which have the lowest PE ratio, right? So let us just see how to calculate the PE ratios, that is your price earning ratio. The formula is very simple, that is your market price divided by earning per share. So now how to calculate earning per share, which is your EPS? It is earning available for equity shareholders divided by number of equity shares, and you simply get that EPS, and then you just use it into your PE formula. Let us just see a question. A question is over here in front of you. A question is here in front of you, that the capital of Star Company Limited, equity shares, 80,000 equity shares of 10 rupees each, that is 8 lakh. Preference shares valuation figures are also given to you. Profit after tax at the rate 60% is 2 lakh 70. Depreciation 60,000. Earning pay, your equity dividend is 20%, and your market price per share is 40. So first of all, what we are going to calculate is your EPS. So your EPS is equals to earning available for equity shareholders divided by number of equity shares. So for that, we will first write our profit after tax, which is equals to 270 minus preference dividend minus preference dividend. So our preference dividend is equals to 3 lakh 9%, which is equals to 27,000. So when you subtract it, you get it to be 2,70,000 minus 27,000, which is 243,000. Now we know our earning available for equity shareholders. So what we are going to do, we will just directly divide it with our 80,000, and we will get it to be equal to 3.04, right? It is giving 3.35, so it will just round it up and make it at 3.04. So now you can directly implement this into our formula, that is we were given the market price, that is 40, and then you can directly divide it with our 3.04, which we have calculated right now, and your PE ratio is 13.1 is to 1. So if there is another security which have more than 13.1, you will not select that. But if you have a security with less than 13.1 is to 1, you will select that ratio, because the lowest PE ratio is better for an investor, right? So this is how we calculate the price of equity share with the help of your earning price earning ratio method. So let us just have a quick recap on all the formulas which we have used right now. And we have studied the valuation of equity. We understood what do we mean by equity. Then the methods, we discussed three main methods. Under the second method, that is your DDM, we have discussed the five methods. So the first method was your discount cash flow technique, in which your formula was very simple. The second method of DDM, which have four assumptions, we have studied the single price valuation model, multiple price valuation model, then your growth model, your constant growth model, which is also known as Gordon model. Then we have learned the two-stage growth model. We also looked upon the third stage, that is your price earning ratio. So now let us just have a quick recap with the help of the MCQs. So I have prepared a set of 10 MCQ questions for you, and let us just see how much you can score out of 10. So the first two questions are on your screen. Question number 3 and question number 4. Question number 5 and question number 6. Question number 7 and question number 8. Question number 9 and question number 10. So now let's just check the correct answers. The correct answer for question number 1 is option D. For question number 2 and question number 3, the correct option is A. For question number 4, 5, and 6, the correct option is B. For question number 7, the correct option is option C. Question number 8, your correct option is option B. Question number 9, your correct option is option C. And for question number 10, the correct option is option E. So let us just see one more time all the topics which we have covered. That is your discounted cash flow technique, your DDM model, which comprised of single period valuation, multiple period valuation, growth rate, that is your zero growth rate, then your constant growth model, which is your Gordon model, and two-stage growth model. We also looked upon your very important price earning ratio. Now let us just go through the formulas, all the questions which we have studied. So thank you everyone for watching this video lecture. I do hope we have learned how to calculate the value of equity share with the help of the three techniques. And in technique number 2, that is your DDM, we learned for the 5 models to calculate the value of equity. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Happy learning.